I was saying, y'all, it's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and the Commanders have signed a wide receiver by the initials of TM. Unfortunately, for a lot of us out here, it is not Terry McLaurin, but we're going to dive into who this is, what impact he may have on this team. Is he a Terry replacement? Is this just a camp body, or is this somebody they may even think makes a 53-man roster by the end of the season? We're going to dive into who he is and all of that. Also, Terry McLaurin is near the practice facilities. Apparently, he's only 10 minutes away doing stuff. He took a picture with a fan. We're going to dive into all of that, what's going on, every Terry update that we have as well. Jaden Daniels spoke on the situation, all of that. And then also, we have a very positive Samuel Cosmi update. We're going to dive into all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all of the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting all of the videos and watching them all the way through as well, man. That's huge for me, and I really appreciate y'all. Again, I'm going to have y'all covered for everything, training camp, any updates, when Terry McLaurin signs a long-term deal. I got y'all on that, everything, man. So make sure you pull up, stay tuned. Without further ado, let's go dive into this video right now, man. Instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's get it. Adam. Let's start with TM. And again, we're not talking Terry McLaurin. The Commanders signed a different TM before training camp practice officially started for day one yesterday, July 23rd. And just to let you know, he was also practicing as well. So maybe they already had talks with him like a day or two ago before practice. And because, I mean, there's no way they just called him, he signed, and then immediately flew to Ashburn and was ready to practice. So this must have been in the works already. And then they just officially announced it, and he pulled up to practice and everything like that. And this is clearly one of those, I mean, y'all asked for Terry McLaurin, but do you have Terry McLaurin money? No. Well, we got Terry McLaurin at home. It feels like that, man. Because, honestly, Terry McLaurin and Tay Martin is very close. With a certain accent from some country, somewhere, some region, it might sound the same. But, hey, I told y'all we were going to sign TM, and at least I got the initials right. But who is he? Well, first of all, he's wearing number 6, which is currently being shared with Noah Benagidi on the team. So that probably already shows you how much faith they have in this guy to potentially have an impact on our regular season, to even make the team at all. The fact that this guy is sharing a number with somebody else, but who knows? Maybe he comes in, balls out. But at the same time, the Commanders brought in 4 different wide receivers. With that roster spot that's open from Terry McLaurin not being there, 4 wide receivers came to work out. And before we get back to Tay Martin, I do want to point out the fact that it's interesting that they chose to replace Terry McLaurin with another receiver. You know, they could have easily brought in a random other player on another position. Maybe they have like a very strict amount of guys that they want for certain drills. They want a certain amount of receivers, and not Terry McLaurin not being there is messing up that amount. I thought that was pretty interesting. So maybe there is something to Tay Martin coming in, because again, they could have went and gotten an extra offensive lineman since Samuel Cosmi just went on the PUP list. And again, we're gonna of course talk about him later. Well, they could have signed another edge rusher. You know, they could have signed anything, another corner. They chose to specifically sign a receiver, so that's either they have a specific way that they want to practice, and they require a certain amount of receiver bodies to get that done with the flow of how they do things, I guess. Or maybe Tay Martin actually has a chance to at least stick around up until maybe Terry McLaurin shows up, or maybe even when Terry McLaurin pulls back up, signs his long-term contract, maybe they'll end up cutting another receiver other than Tay Martin. Who knows? Because getting back to Tay Martin, they worked out 4 receivers, and that's Chase Cota out of Oregon, that's Jasim Reed out of San Diego, and Braylon Sanders out of Mississippi. And out of the 4, they chose to sign Tay Martin out of that group. So he at least stood out compared to those other 3 guys that came to work out. And then shouts out to Ed Oliver, because of course he pointed out the fact that the Commanders gave his DC Defenders guy, Braylon Sanders, a chance today. They tried him, well, technically yesterday at training camp. And just to let you know, Braylon Sanders made quite a few big plays for the Defenders this season. And so at least, hey, shouts out to the Commanders for at least giving an opportunity to the guy and giving him a look. But hey, for a guy to go out there and be noticeable on a team that ended up winning the championship, the DC Defenders, for him to be an impactful guy on that team, and for Tay Martin to beat that guy out, maybe there's something slight to this. Now, granted, of course, the guy that he's competing with was on the DC Defenders. This is not just some elite prospect or something like that. But Tay Martin must have something going his way. Now, shouts out to Rush Manuel. He brings up a good point, though. He's likely a camp body, strictly, not really projected to make the final 53-man roster, and he has a long way to go. You got to overlap KJ Osborne. You have to overlap Ja'Cory Brooks, who had a great day today in practice. Well, technically yesterday, 2 touchdowns. You have to overlap Michael Gallup, who's one of only 3 wide receivers on this entire roster that has had a 1,000-yard season in their career, and he's not even that old. You know, there's a long way to go, which is kind of a good sign. Like, we have a pretty good wide receiver room. Luke McCaffrey has potential. I love Jalen Lane's talent. Of course, you have Debo and Terry at the top, Noah Brown as well. So it's an interesting mix right there. He has a long way to go, but it's not impossible. You'll even have guys like Chris Moore that are making plays. I'm not sure he'll make the final 53-man roster at all, but who knows? But Rush Manuel also pointed out the fact that Tay Martin has ties to Adam Peters from their time together at San Francisco. Then you have Tyke Tolbert, the Titans wide receiver coach that he played under last year, was also with Adam Peters in Denver. And then also Tay is familiar with the air raid, having played at Washington State under Mike Leach. So, hey, man, there's a lot of connections right there, and he at least understands some of the scheme enough, because, of course, every air raid coach isn't exactly the same, but if you know air raid in general, maybe that's the reason that he ended up winning that spot out of the 4 wide receivers that worked out, because he has a better grasp of the offense. Maybe just that could be the reason, who knows? But shouts out to Serena Burks of Commanders Wire for doing a rundown of this guy's history. Well, first of all, the Washington Commanders and Terry McLaurin, of course, have yet to agree on a contract extension, which has resulted in McLaurin not reporting for camp this week. McLaurin has expressed frustration with this process, and despite both sides wanting to get a deal done and both of them saying out loud to the public that they want to, they are struggling to find common ground. As such, the Commanders added a wide receiver ahead of training camp practice on Wednesday, July 23rd. Just to let you know, Tay Martin entered the league in 2022 when he signed with the San Francisco 49ers as an undrafted free agent. Again, Adam Peters was there as an assistant general manager. He spent 2 seasons on their practice squad before signing with the Tennessee Titans in 2024, last season. He was on the Titans practice squad for most of the season, but then he elevated to the main roster on January 4th. And then he participated in the Titans' Week 18 loss to the Houston Texans, but he finally recorded his first career reception, which was a 49-yard touchdown pass from Will Levis. So technically, Tay Martin averages 49 yards per reception and a touchdown per reception. We're talking Hall of Fame numbers here, impossible stuff. Of course, if he ever steps onto a football field in a regular season game again, he's more than likely not going to be able to keep up that efficiency and production. But as of right now, he has never before seen efficiency numbers going right now, man. So far in his NFL career, he's averaging 49 yards per reception. And just to let you know, that was also the last touchdown of the 2024 season for the Titans. So even Titans fans remember this guy vividly. Now, when we're looking at his relative athletic score, he doesn't really stand out physically. I mean, his 10-yard split was pretty good, but everything else is kind of okay and good, like you see in every part of the relative athletic score, because he's a little underweight, but he's a pretty decent height at 6'1", and then his vertical was pretty good, but then his broad jump wasn't. His agility grades are all like above average, like slightly good, and then his speed, I don't know why his 40-yard dash was that bad, because his 20-yard split and his 10-yard split were pretty good, so it shows that he has pretty good acceleration. He just doesn't have really good long speed. And hey, good acceleration means that you may be able to separate as a wide receiver. 6'1", you can separate and get open underneath. Hey, there's a lane for him to potentially play a role in. We'll see. Again, I doubt he makes the final 53-man roster. I wouldn't be surprised the day that Terry McLaurin signs his extension, Tay Martin immediately gets cut. But hey, he beat out 3 other receivers. He's already familiar with the air raid system. Maybe he'll do enough before Terry returns to kick somebody else off the team. Because it's not like, of course, this guy's going to hold up Terry McLaurin. There's nothing Tay Martin can go out there and do to make the Commanders even second guess signing Terry McLaurin to a long-term extension. There's absolutely, he can score 5 touchdowns in practice. It wouldn't stop that. But he can do a lot with the time that he's been given right now until Terry McLaurin signs long-term to at least try to beat out like a Chris Moore or a Ja'Cory Brooks or a Michael Gallup or a KJ Osborne or any of those other random wide receivers that are further down in the depth chart. I mean, I just listed guys that are all competing for a real roster spot. Really, I need to be talking about guys like Michael Strahan, or we could be talking about Casimir Allen. Technically, he made a switch to running back, though. Or we could be talking about Jacoby Jones. You know, those are the guys that he's more likely to beat out, at least to stay on the 91-man roster until we start to cut to 53 after the preseason. So we'll see what happens there, man. I'm just letting you know he's on the team, but it's not very likely for him to stay here long. As soon as we sign Terry McLaurin to a long-term extension, he's probably gone. But I just feel like it was worth noting that, hey, man, this guy has some explosive potential to him. Now, speaking of Terry McLaurin, moving on. Look at Terry McLaurin taking a picture with a fan. Shouts out to @PHWHALA10 on Twitter. He took a picture with Terry McLaurin. Apparently Terry was doing some yoga this morning in Virginia, so he's definitely in town. He's very close by, and somebody actually retweeted it and said that that's only 10 minutes away from where we practice in Ashburn. Now, I don't know that for 100% fact. I do not know Virginia, and I have not just set aside time to go Google like what is the name of that business behind, and then where's Ashburn, and then how far of a distance they are. But at the very least, we know, at the very least, he's in the local area. So I honestly don't feel like this holdout will last very long, to be completely honest with you, because y'all saw what Trey Hendrickson did during his holdout. I told y'all in a previous video, like the video I did last night, but just in case if you missed it, Trey Hendrickson was in Cincinnati for the past at least a month, maybe a month and a half, 2 months. As soon as their training camp started, he left the day before to go to Florida. Like, that was deliberate. That was to show the Bengals, I am not playing with y'all. That was to make a statement. I prefer to be in Cincinnati, but as soon as training camp's coming around, I don't even want to be near y'all. I don't want to even be within the same time zone as y'all until y'all get this contract situation straight. So, and that's a new one. You know, maybe people have done that before. I haven't necessarily heard of people doing that, but I thought that was interesting that he took the time to leave Ohio, go all the way to Florida just because training camp pulled up, and he did. Again, he was sitting comfortably in Cincinnati. He had no plans to go there and go to Florida until training camp started. So that, I mean, again, people are panicking over Terry McLaurin. It could be way worse. I mean, look at the Bengals. They can't even sign their first round pick at this point. The way that they're headed, their first round pick is going to end up going back into the draft and ending up in the 2026 draft next year, where he could be drafted by anybody, and the Bengals just lose out on a first round pick. Like, their situation is crazy. So even as a Washington fan, I know this Terry McLaurin situation feels a little ugly, but it could always be way worse. I mean, you saw Jamar Chase hold out a lot of training camp, and he even said that that was probably the main reason they got off to a slow start, which ended up being the main reason why they didn't make the playoffs. So things could be way worse. As of right now, we haven't gotten to that point. Let's hope we just don't get there. But also, shouts out to George Carmi. I agree with him. He said, I think the deal gets done. Both sides know they need each other. I agree with that. I don't see a trade as a realistic option. I agree with that. And we've heard reports. I've already told y'all in other videos this past week that the Commanders don't even want to trade him. They're not even considering that. And then also, he said, I can see this going another week or two, maybe. I'd be surprised if he isn't out there by the home preseason game, which is August 18th. And I agree. I would be shocked, honestly, if he made it that far. But shouts out to the Podfather over there at the Burgundy Zone. He brings up a good point as well. He said, disappointed in both sides. Every day that's missed is a possible setback in December and January. I agree. Or most importantly, September. Because again, Jamar Chase, he said that him holding out of training camp was the reason that they got off to a slow start. Well, remember, he and Joe Burrow have not only played together for years in Cincinnati, they played for years together in LSU back in college. So, like, if anybody could possibly hold out and still keep their chemistry, is those two, and they still feel like their chemistry wasn't as great as it should have been, and it was because of Jamar Chase's holdout. So who's to say that even though Terry McLaurin and Jaden Daniels had a really good connection last year, they've only played together 1 year, so we need to go ahead and rekindle that flame as soon as possible. We need to get that connection back. And shouts out to Podfather. He said, yeah, JD and TM have a good connection already, but this is a valuable time for the team. I also want to add to that Cliff Kingsbury is more than likely adding extra layers to the offense. So right now, as of today, Deebo Samuel probably understands not the entire Cliff Kingsbury offense, but maybe certain aspects of it, certain parts, certain plays, better than even Terry McLaurin does right now, and that's not okay. We need Terry to pull up as soon as possible. Shouts out to George Carmi. He said, agree. Lots of new parts on the offense. Now is the time to fine-tune. The sooner that Terry McLaurin gets back, the better, of course. But then Jaden Daniels, in his press conference, talked about Terry McLaurin and talked about not having his top target in Terry McLaurin. He said, quote, whenever that time comes and he's back on the field, I don't think we'll miss a beat. So you have a lot of us out here, including me, speculating that, hey, man, I'm a little worried about their chemistry if Terry McLaurin's not out there. But Jaden Daniels doesn't seem to be worried at all. He also said, quote, it's just the business in the NFL. We know Terry's working. We don't have to worry about him doing any of that. But at the end of the day, he's still our brother. And then he also said that me and Terry built a rapport. I mean, if you wanted to hear him, here he is for 1:35. If you don't want to see Jaden Daniels talk about this, just skip ahead 1:35 from this point right now.
With Terry not being here, how do you maintain the rapport that you have with him if he's not able to be in camp? Like, what kind of ways are there ways you can make it up, or is it just you guys have so much money in the bank, so to speak, that it's going to be good whenever he gets back?
Yeah, I mean, just constant communication and, watch a film, whenever that time is. But other than that, I mean, me and Terry built a rapport, and it all stems from the relationship built off the field and being on the same page and checking both our egos, for the betterment of the team.
Jaden, what has your communication with Terry been like recently?
I would talk to Terry like if he was here, just checking up on him. But at the end of the day, that's just a relationship we have on and off the field.
Do you think there's concern in the locker room about the situation, or just it's business in the NFL?
It's just business in the NFL. We know Terry's working. We don't really have to worry about him doing any of that. But at the end of the day, he's still one of our brothers.
Jaden, how much does it help that you had a year with him and you've had a whole season of knowing where he's going to be and talking to him and working with him, so that when he does come, he can get up to speed quickly?
It helps out a lot. If it was last year, it'd probably be different because we didn't know each other. But now, since we have a whole year under our belt and just the relationship we built on and off the field, and we don't really have egos when it comes to our relationship with each other, so it's going to be seamless. But I know Terry's working though.
And then Bobby Wagner even talked about it as well. He said basically the same thing, but reworded it from what Jaden Daniels said. He said, quote, "It's a business, and some business isn't your business. When it gets done, we will celebrate with them," unquote. So none of the players are worried. They're all confident and chilling. Like, it would be nice to have them right now, but we don't have anything in the back of our mind saying maybe Terry McLaurin never comes back. Maybe he gets traded. Maybe he holds out for a very long time. It doesn't seem like anybody is worried of the fact that maybe that's even a risk that could happen. Jaden Daniels and Bobby Wagner, who are guys that are probably talking to Terry McLaurin just as much as anybody else, maybe even more. If they're chilling, then I feel like as a fan, I should be chilling. And then also Jeremy Fowler, moving on, brings up a pretty good point though. He made the point that this is Terry's third contract that he's trying to get. And those are always harder to negotiate because of course age is a factor. I've already told y'all in several videos this past week that his age is different. He may be 30 years old, but he didn't enter the NFL until 24. Typically a 30-year-old wide receiver is going into like their 10th, maybe even their 11th season or something like that. He's going into his 7th, and he also didn't play very much at Ohio State, especially his first 2 years there. So even though he's 30, he doesn't have a lot of mileage left on his body. He's not very beat up like another 30-year-old wide receiver would be. So I feel like Terry McLaurin is the exception in this situation. And then it makes it even worse though that now this wide receiver situation, especially at Terry McLaurin's way, that like every draft there just seems to be a few receivers that always hit. And so a lot of people are saying that, just teams in general for the past few years have been thinking, why pay this receiver all of this money, all of this contract, this huge contract that's going to set us back in cap space when we could just simply draft a new one. And I don't like that thinking, especially to replace a guy like Terry McLaurin, especially in this situation. That thinking in general can be okay. I can see it from certain instances, but not this one. Not the one we're in right now. Sign Terry McLaurin, pay him 30, 31, maybe even 32 million a year and get it over with. Now, shouts out to George Carmi too. He brings up a good point. I see the merit in both Peters and McLaurin's arguments. He sees both sides. I do too. I don't think McLaurin is being greedy at all. He's representing himself, his family, and even the NFLPA at this point. And like I showed y'all in my previous video talking about Terry McLaurin from last night, Terry McLaurin's agents right now, if you're looking at all of their clients, Terry McLaurin is the highest paid by far. And we're talking about not even what he's going to make from his next contract. We're talking about the money that he's making right now that he's upset about, that he's not even willing to show up to training camp for. That money right there is by far the most that any of their clients are making. So right now, I'm pretty sure those agents are like propping up Terry like, we cannot fold, we cannot settle, we need to get every penny to set a standard for basically what we do for clients and to really get our name out there. So they're kind of trying to make an example of Terry McLaurin right now, and I'm pretty sure there's that. And then also going back to George Carmi, he said if he takes a lesser contract, it hurts the wide receiver market as a whole as well. So that's the other side of it. He represents something larger. If Terry McLaurin does fold and comes back back for less money than what he wanted, it's going to be a bad look for everybody, man. It's going to affect everything. And then also, George Carmi finished by saying, I think Terry McLaurin should get paid. I don't mind if it's slightly above value because he's earned it. And like I've already said, first of all, I agree with that. I know I'm out of all of my friends, anybody I know, I'm as robotic as it gets. I'm straight business. I'm straight cold facts, stat. Y'all see me, I'm the stats guy. That's not just something I do for YouTube. Like, I'm purely cold business. You're supposed to pay players for what they will do in the future. I don't know. Terry McLaurin is just that one guy that's kind of the exception, man, where you got to slide him a little piece for what he had to deal with and sticking around and being the best example of what it could be to be not only just a player, but a wide receiver specifically that's full of divas around the NFL on and off the field, man. So shouts out to Terry, man. I think he deserves something good, probably more than what the Commanders are offering them right now. And then Louis Riddick even spoke on it, and Louis Riddick loves the Commanders. He's always one of the people that's hyping up Jaden Daniels, hyping up the team. Remember, he used to work for us back when we were the Redskins a while ago, and ever since then, anytime he's on ESPN or anywhere, if he has the chance to talk highly of the Commanders, he will. He was supporting us the entire way. He was talking about the Commanders got a steal in Jaden Daniels. He's the best quarterback in the draft. All of that type of stuff, even before Jaden Daniels ever stepped foot on the NFL field. Louis Riddick has always been there for us, but at the same time, he said that he's highly concerned about Terry McLaurin's absence from training camp, and he basically said that he's a level 10 out of 10 concern right now. I do not agree with that. I think a lot of the points that he brought up in the clip are true. If you want to go check that out, go to First Take on Twitter. They have a whole minute and 53-second clip of him breaking down why he's concerned. But again, he said it's a 10 out of 10. I wouldn't go that far at all, but it is a concern. But now, I mean, again, Terry McLaurin is you can't replace this guy. Like, you have to bring him back. I really want to emphasize this. Shouts out to Jay Daniels MVP. He brings up a great point that I brought up in previous videos, but since he just retweeted it recently, I felt like it was a good time to bring it up again. He said Terry McLaurin is easily one of the best contested catchers in the NFL. Actually, I gave y'all the stats just earlier this week that he literally is the single best contested catch receiver in the entire NFL by like 2 or 3 advanced stats. Like, he's king of like 2 or 3 different separate contested catch stats, man. So he is not just one of them. He is literally the best contested catch receiver in the NFL. And so then he also said, for those who say trade Terry, who replaced Terry's offensive production, especially when it comes to this contested catching? I mean, think of Jaden Daniels scrambling for his life against the Saints. Terry McLaurin goes up there and makes that contested catch. Think against the Cowboys in Dallas. I mean, there's so many games we can reference, man. And then also, if you look on the screen right now, I mean, look at these stats, and these are including the playoffs, man. Passer rating wise, when Jaden Daniels was targeting Terry McLaurin, it was only behind Jared Goff targeting Amon-Ra St. Brown out of anybody that had 90 plus targets when it comes to passer rating. Jaden Daniels had a 128.4 passer rating when targeting Terry McLaurin, and mind you, that was Jaden Daniels that was missing Terry McLaurin at times in that Saints game. It should have been even higher if they would have completed that. That would have been Terry McLaurin's first 150-plus receiving game. And honestly, you got to put that on Jaden Daniels for being inaccurate on those throws, which is crazy because he's usually a very accurate deep ball thrower, but he just wasn't that day. And so basically my point is, honestly, if they would have connected on those easy deep shots right there where Terry McLaurin was open down the field, Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin would have had the highest passer rating between a quarterback and a wide receiver in the entire NFL. And right now, Terry McLaurin, of course, is 17th, his jersey number, in average salary out of all wide receivers, and yet he had the second most receiving touchdowns last year with 13. This guy matters, man. This is not somebody you could just go replace in the draft and free agency or by some random person on our team stepping up. I love Deebo Samuel, but I don't want to go into this regular season with Deebo Samuel as our wide receiver 1 and Noah Brown as our wide receiver 2. That's not it. Now moving on to Samuel Cosmi. So this all started when the Commanders, before training camp started, made the following moves. They placed wide receiver Terry McLaurin on the reserve did not report list, of course, because he's holding out. That's just customary. That's by the protocol. But then they also placed guard Samuel Cosmi on the active, physically unable to perform list, the PUP list. And Dan Quinn held a press conference and said, and this was before practice, that there is a possible week 1 return scenario for Samuel Cosmi on the table. Wow. You know what I'm saying? We all throughout this offseason, they've been saying that he's ahead of schedule, that he's doing really well. He's hitting all of the markers. They're doing all of the cliches. But to say that him possibly playing week 1 and that's on the table is big news coming from the head coach. That is more than ahead of schedule. That's far more ahead of schedule than I thought he would be. So that's great to hear, man. And you even had Samuel Cosmi earlier at practice today at training camp. Of course, he wasn't practicing, but he was walking looking pretty normal. And that's my thing, man. As you can see with him walking around right now, it's always crazy how guys are projected to be out for weeks, for months. But when it just comes to doing normal human activities like walking around, it looks like nothing's wrong with them. That's how crazy the NFL is. That's how crazy professional football is, especially at the top when you get to the NFL, that like, this guy looks completely fine just walking normal as a human being. If he was at the grocery store, you would never think that this guy is recovering from a torn ACL. So that shows the toughness that he has, first of all, to be walking on a still recovering torn ACL like it's nothing. But then also it shows the caliber of physicality that is part of the NFL. The fact that this guy walking that easily, that smoothly, looking very comfortable, is out for weeks, for months potentially. Like, the NFL is just a different level, man. And then moving on, of course, Cosmi is still recovering from a surgery on his ACL, the injury that he suffered in the NFC divisional playoff win over the Detroit Lions just as recently as January. Dan Quinn offered an update on Cosmi Tuesday, right the day before training camp, so technically 2 days ago. I'm recording this at 12:48 a.m. July 24th. He said, quote, "He's doing great. He's had a really strong offseason and we're not going to miss one step of him along the way. The guys are doing their physicals today, so I can give you a follow-up of where he's at tomorrow, but he's really hitting all of the markers that we had set, that we'd hoped to see, and so that's a really cool thing." And then even beyond that, when asked about Samuel Cosmi yesterday before practice, so a day after that most recent quote I just gave you, he said, quote, "As far as Samuel Cosmi returning for the start of the season week 1, it's on the table for sure. We'll get a better answer on that as we get closer to the end of the preseason, but I'm very encouraged with the work he's put in," unquote. So I don't know what Samuel Cosmi's doing exactly to give Dan Quinn the impression that, hey, man, this guy could be ready by week 1. But he must be going crazy. He must be looking really good, because we're going to talk about it really soon. But this is one of the deepest defensive lines in the entire NFL when it comes to depth, when it comes to startable backups. We have plenty of guys, like 2 or 3, that I'm comfortable with starting at right guard for us if Samuel Cosmi's not ready. So my point is, there's literally no reason to rush him back at all. There's no reason to bring him back any sooner than he's 100%. I don't care if he's 99%. Do not bring him back until he's 100. And so with that in mind, and I'm pretty sure Dan Quinn and this entire team has that exact same mindset, to think that he has a chance to play week 1, to be 100% specifically by week 1, is monumental, man. Shouts out to George Carmi. He said, "I've always been of the belief that Cosmi will be back sooner than predicted. I think this team still ends up putting him on the PUP list for the first 4 weeks of the season just to be safe, but it would be crazy if he ends up actually being able to play week 1 and is 100%. Again, there's no reason to rush him back with the depth that we have right now. And the opponents that we're going against, granted, the Giants D-line is supposed to be really good, but we'll be okay, man. I think we have a top 15 offensive line in the NFL without Samuel Cosmi. Maybe even top 10. With them, I think that's when we start to get in the top 5 conversations, but we'll be just fine. Samuel Cosmi hurt going into week 1 is still a better O-line when you add Larry Tunsil, you move Brandon Coleman to left guard, and you start Josh Connolly at right tackle than any offensive line we put out there last year when Jaden Daniels had the best season of a rookie in NFL history. So we're good without Samuel Cosmi if he needs to miss any time for any reason. Let's talk about the depth, man. So again, your starters are Larry Tunsil going from left to right, left tackle, Brandon Coleman at left guard, Tyler Biadasz at center. And mind you, everybody I've named except for Brandon Coleman so far, Pro Bowlers. Laramie Tunsil, multi-Pro Bowler. Tyler Biadasz, Pro Bowler once upon a time, and Brandon Coleman shut down the NFL's leading sack guy last year, and Trey Hendrickson last year when we played them at tackle, and I think he has a higher potential at guard than he had at tackle. I think he's going to be a better guard than he was tackle, just like Mike Sanford is going to be a better slot corner than he was an outside corner, even as good as he was on the outside last year. Brandon Coleman is the exact equivalent of that. Then you go to right guard. Samuel Cosmi is supposed to be a starter. We'll come back to that. We'll get to the backups, but right now at right tackle, technically Andrew Wiley's the starter because Josh Connolly has to earn the starting role, just like Jaden Daniels had to beat out Marcus Mariota last year. So don't panic, don't overthink it. Josh Connolly will be the starter well before week 1, in my opinion. But either way, let's just assume Josh Connolly's the starter. We're thinking ahead. Your backups are Trent Scott, Nate Herbig, and Andrew Wiley, and Nick Allegretti. That is insane depth. Mind you, Andrew Wiley was just starting right tackle last year. Nick Allegretti was just starting left guard last year. Those are automatically, even by definition, just startable backups. But also, they were starters on a top 15 O-line last year. Now they're both backups. Nate Herbig was supposed to be the starting center for the Steelers last year, but he got hurt either right before the season started or very early in the season, so he missed the entire season. Now he's with us. He's supposed to be starting on another offensive line. Now he's one of our depth backups, interior offensive lineman, center guard, whichever one you may need at the time for whatever reason. Some people think he may compete with Nick Allegretti to win the starting right guard spot until Samuel Cosmi comes back. That's how high they are on Nate Herbig. And then last but not least, Trent Scott started in place. Well, didn't start. Well, he replaced Samuel Cosmi in that divisional game when Samuel Cosmi got hurt against the Lions. Because remember, Samuel Cosmi got hurt and was out for the rest of the game against the Detroit Lions during our first touchdown play. All of the rest of the points that we scored, including some on defense, though, was with Trent Scott at right guard, and we didn't miss a beat. You almost forgot that Samuel Cosmi ever got hurt. There was never a problem of, oh, that right guard position looks a little weak. There's some pressure coming from there. We can't run the ball that way. Trent Scott found his call in that guard. I don't know why we kept trying him at tackle so long. He was atrocious at tackle. He has real potential at guard. So, I mean, the depth here for this potential right guard position, I mean, even Andrew Wiley could technically step in at right guard if you need him to. So again, with Josh Connolly starting at right tackle, Brandon Coleman starting at left guard, you have Andrew Wiley, Nick Allegretti, Nate Herbig, and Trent Scott, 4 different people that I am perfectly comfortable with being our starting right guard going into week 1 of the regular season. There is absolutely no reason to rush him back, but hey man, if he somehow ends up being healthy in some way by week 1, 100%, that is insane. I'm right with my boy at Bleeding Burgundy and Gold. He said Samuel Cosmi is a freak athlete, man. And then Chris Bryant, a.k.a. Hog Farmer Chris, asked him, what brings you to say that? Some recent news? And then Bleeding Burgundy and Gold replied, I mean, he's always been a freak athlete. Remember, his relative athletic score was like a 9 point something. It was insane already. But possibly being ready in September, when you tore your ACL in January 18th, not even the beginning of January, and you're 320 pounds, that is freak athleticism if you've ever seen it. I'm right with Bleeding Burgundy and Gold right there, man. Samuel Cosmi, if he's ready by week 1, that doesn't even make sense. That's alien stuff right there. It would be nice. Again, I'm saying don't rush it. If he's even 99%, do not even think about playing him week 1. It is not that serious. We will be just fine, like I explained, with the depth that we have behind him. But if he's somehow ready by week 1, buckle up, Giants, because we're going to neutralize the best part of your team, your defensive line, and render y'all useless everywhere else. And that should be a stomping. So I'm really excited about the potential of this team. Get Terry McLaurin signed. We'll see what Tay Martin can do. And Samuel Cosmi getting back healthier sooner than we thought. Insane. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you about everything discussed in the video. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. If you made it this far in the video, really appreciate you. Salute to you. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. That is really appreciated. If you're hearing me talk right now, you a goat, man, and I really appreciate y'all. Make sure you let me know in the comment section how you feel about the whole Tay Martin situation. How do you feel about his chances of maybe even making the roster even after Terry McLaurin re-signs a long-term deal and starts to practice with us? How do you feel about Terry McLaurin's situation with him being nearby the yoga spot that's reportedly only 10 minutes away from the practice facilities? Do you think that, hey, maybe that's a sign that they're working on something? Maybe he even came into the the football part of the facilities. Maybe behind the scenes went to talk to Adam Peters in person, not like the business side of the facilities. Who knows? I'm just throwing stuff out there. Let me know what you think about that and the fact that this is not like a super duper holdout. Terry McLaurin's right around the corner. And then also let me know how you feel about Samuel Cosmi and the depth that we have behind him. Do you agree with me that we should not rush him back by week 1? Or do you think we need him in order to deal with that potentially dominant defensive line that the Giants are putting together? Let me know how you feel about all of that, man. I really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.